Everyone knows that feeling, wanting to experience more stories, but struggling to find the time. That's where Audible changes everything. With over 1 million audiobooks and Audible originals, there's a story waiting to spark anyone's imagination. Take The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley, the gripping psychological thriller that's keeping listeners on the edge of their seats. Imagine unraveling its mysteries during your morning commute, or losing yourself in its twists and turns while doing household chores. That's the magic of Audible. It transforms daily routines into opportunities for thrilling discoveries. The best part? Members get access to thousands of included titles, with new content added regularly. From bestsellers to hidden gems, every genre imaginable is at their fingertips. And with one easy-to-use app, switching between favorites or discovering new passions has never been simpler. There's more to imagine when you listen. Start a free 30-day Audible trial and get your first audiobook free at audible.com/Wondery. That's audible.com/Wondery.
Mochi Health is here to help you start your weight loss journey with caring, personalized support. Meet one-on-one with board-certified obesity doctors and registered dietitians who truly listen and understand your unique needs. Eligible patients can access affordable GLP-1 medications delivered right to their door each month. No insurance? No problem. Mochi Health accepts FSA and HSA, making care accessible and affordable. And with 24/7 customer service, you'll never feel alone on your path to better health. Get started with Mochi Health today. Take the free quiz at joinmochi.com and use code AUDIO40 at checkout for $40 off your first month of membership. That's joinmochi.com with promo code AUDIO40.
Episode 18 of The Messenger, the Rachel Cancer Scam. Previously on The Messenger, we learned a bit more about the sequence of events which led Rachel's husband Mark to me on that fateful December day in 2023. And on this episode, I'll continue to unravel this ridiculous web of deception. Rachel has left a trail of broken trust and shattered lives, seemingly at every stop she's made in her life since the passing of her father in February of 1989. Now, you've heard me use the name Mike Cherry on past episodes. He's a Houston native who went to the same school as Rachel and ended up crossing paths with Rachel during a brief but revealing chapter in 2015 in both of their lives. A couple of things here before you hear the interview. First thing is that it was recorded near the end of Season 1 while I was writing and recording Season 1. This would be in the neighborhood of May or June of 2024. Now, some of the details I cover may seem as if I'm sharing them for the first time, but it's all got to do with the timing of the recording in this episode and what I had for knowledge in my research at that point. As an example, you'll hear me reference Brad, Rachel's first boyfriend. At the time I recorded the interview with Mike, I hadn't yet been able to find Brad, nor was I able to have talked to him at that point. Those things happened in the 6 months or so after this recording. So, with that said, please allow me a little bit of grace regarding the details in this interview. I wanted to preserve it to the best of my ability for you. Now, Mike's story offers another first-hand look at Rachel's manipulative tactics, from another fabricated pregnancy to lying about still being married to Mark when they were together. This further exposes her ability to charm and deceive even the most cautious. Their connection, rooted in this shared high school past in the Houston area, began innocently enough on social media, but it quickly spiraled into a whirlwind of red flags and a little bit of heartbreak. Luckily for Mike, his time with Rachel, his time in the box, was very limited. His account not only highlights Rachel's calculated lies, but it also underscores the emotional toll on those who believed in her, including her own children and, of course, Mark. Mike, a few years older than Rachel, reconnected with her online in 2015, unaware of any of the chaos that awaited him or that she had been up to since they knew each other back in the late 80s. Now, initially, he was drawn in by her charm. Tales of being a divorced, single mom, raising her 4 daughters. Mike ended up traveling to California for a weekend in Cambria and ended up encountering a series of inconsistencies, including restricting Mike's access to her home, citing weekend visits by Mark for her girls. Sound familiar? Her stories grew wilder. A bank robbery, actually multiple bank robberies, at the bank that she allegedly worked in, yet a bank that didn't really exist, Capital One in Morro Bay. That bombshell pregnancy announcement just weeks after their meeting, complete with a suspicious ultrasound. Mike's instinct, sharpened by his own rather unfortunate past with infidelity, led him to dig in and investigate. Now, what makes Mike's story compelling is his ability to just walk away unscathed, a decision he now calls dodging a bullet. Mike shows a lot of empathy for Mark and her children who are still caught in this manipulative orbit. And I hope you'll feel as I do after listening to him share his story. It adds depth to this cautionary tale. It's just another set of receipts for you as we explore Rachel's long history of scams and lying. Mike Cherry joins us now on The Messenger, the Rachel Cancer Scam.
I'm comedian Negin Farsad, and I know that news and politics can be stressful. But on my podcast, Fake the Nation, we're here to make them calming, even, dare I say, fun.
We have panelists like Samantha Bee, Bob the Drag Queen, Margaret Cho, David Cross, all following the news, politics, and culture so you don't have to. Distress the news with Fake the Nation on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.
I didn't really know of her back in the day because I was probably a senior when she was a freshman. Her brother was closer to my age. He was maybe a year or two younger than me.
So when you guys connected on Facebook, it was 2016 or 2017 in that period of time?
I think it was 2015. It wasn't very long. I mean, I only went to see her, once. Stayed up there, and I had feelings for her. The whole reason I went to see her to begin with. So I knew she had 4 girls. I had FaceTime with them back and forth. When I first had begun talking to her, she said that she was divorced. I believed it. Said that he lived down south. I want to say it was maybe it was Los Angeles or somewhere, and was working down there. And he would come up, and she was nice enough to continue to let him stay in the house on the weekends, that he wanted to come up and see his girls. And so that if there was ever a time I come up on the weekend, I had to kind of adhere to that.
You couldn't go to the house.
Right. I wasn't allowed to go to the house, which, like I said, I only went up there one time. We was just going to meet in person and kind of spend the weekend together. Even then it was kind of limited. We spent the day with each other at one point in time, and we went to, a little town called Cambria. She likes that town. And so we went over there and spent the day on the beach. I stayed in a hotel right there.
So you spend one weekend together, and then you actually got to meet the girls.
I met the girls previous on FaceTime. They had a dinner, and I was like on FaceTime at the end of the table.
Oh, like a virtual dinner.
Yeah. So I was like mommy's friend from long ago. And
so you got a FaceTime virtual dinner with the girls, and then you decide to fly out there to see her. You stay in Cambria for the weekend. Obviously one thing leads to another, and you end up going home. And then how long after that visit did she tell you she was pregnant?
It wasn't long. It maybe a month or so. I mean, maybe it might have been 3 weeks to a month. And then, so I accepted it, and, I obviously had feelings for her. We'd been talking at that time for probably about 4 months or so. Of course, Rachel, she seems perfect. And, as a gentleman, you want to believe everything that is coming out of her mouth and take it at face value and think that you're in this great, harmonious, it's just things happen the way they happen,
Yeah. So you looked at it like it was some sort of a message, in the same way probably that I did, right? I mean, you just like, okay, this is kind of.
Well, I didn't have anybody in my area, that I thought, I was clicking with or connecting to, and she was always available. And
so you have the weekend together. You go back to the area that you live in outside of Houston, and you continue to communicate with her. Is she doing anything during that time? I know at one point in time she was sending you letters and pictures and stuff. How quickly did that happen?
You know,
we call that a love bomb. That's what we call that, being love bomb.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it come in a package. It's probably, it wasn't long after I had come back. It might have been right before. I might have got that right before she told me she was pregnant.
Kind of a strategic move. She sends you a bunch of pictures. She sends you a letter, and then the next thing you know, you're pregnant. Right? You guys are having a baby.
You know, she had me locked in because obviously you're pregnant with someone. You're talking about, okay, well, what do we do now? You want to make this a go. You want to move in together. So she's talking about, I was talking about moving and going and moving up there. And she's like, oh, no, I want to come back to Texas. My heart's always been in Texas. And she said, why don't you stay there? And I'll make a way for me to wrap everything up here. And me and the girls will come and live down there. We'll move in together or whatnot.
Bullshitting you the same way she's bullshitted everybody.
I mean, I was going around looking at, houses for us to potentially move in together. One thing, it was always this or that. She's got a million of great excuses or whatever. And I just remember thinking, man, there's a few red flags, but don't question it and screw up the relationship because you're questioning the red flag. I'm going with the flow. Whatever happens, and it'll be when it's supposed to be or whatnot. So a few months goes by, and she said the bank that she was working at had gotten robbed, and it's been robbed before, and so it wasn't the first time. So she kind of had me wrapped up in a little bit of this emotion with the bank being robbed a few occasions. Like I'm like, they can't get a handle on it. Like, that's absurd,
This, by the way, is the Wells Fargo in Morro Bay, California.
I'm pretty sure it was the Capital One she was telling me that she worked at. I'd even sent flowers to that Capital One. And she said, oh, no, you sent them to my work? I said, yeah. A few days had went by, and I know they were there, and she didn't say anything about them or anything. And I'm thinking,
there's no Capital One bank in Morro Bay.
Well, Morro Bay it's up against the coast, right?
That's correct.
Okay. No, so she was living in SLO at this time.
Was she at the bank when she got robbed? Did she say that she was there?
Yeah, I've had a stressful day. Like, that was one reason. She said she can't talk. She had to talk tomorrow or whatever, and she'll call me or whatnot. So I just said, okay, no problem. And then I let it. And then the next day, she's like, oh my God, bank he just keeps getting robbed, and it's just so unsafe here. And the thing is, it's like, I don't know how you fake cry as good as she does, because that was the one, because I got a pretty good feel for people, and she was in an emotion when she would go off on these certain stories or whatever, and I'm thinking, okay, it's real. She's not lying, even though the red flags are there. You because you're questioning back in mind, there's no way this bank's been robbed 3 times.
She's a great actress. She can get in that moment and be emotional, and clearly she could do that.
She did.
You sent me a picture of this little shrine that you had in your house with a couple of letters and some pictures of the ultrasound and all that.
Is that love bomb, I guess what you'd call it. I had pulled it all out, and I sent it to her at one point in time and said, oh, that's very sweet. I can't believe someone would do that, and
sure.
So I had the picture readily available, and I wind up sending it. My best friend's sister had asked me, how's everything going? Who you seeing now? I sent her the picture. I said, yeah, this girl's, seems like she's crazy about me, so we'll see where it goes, And when she become pregnant, and then she said it was twins that she'd went to said, well, can you send me the ultrasound? And so she sent me this ultrasound. I just had this instinct of, something's not right here. And so I had someone that does investigative work down here, one of my friends, and I said, hey, I want you to take a look at this and see if you can pull this picture up anywhere on the internet or somewhere. And she pulled it up. It happened to be a picture or an article of twins in New Jersey that were fraternal twins, is what they call them. Mm-hmm. That's when I really was like, holy shit, she got me, Yeah. She got me. Yeah. And I thought, why would she do that? And then I thought, I'm gonna question her, and I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna walk away and not say a word to her and just let her.
You walked away. You ghosted her.
Yeah.
There was never a confrontation.
No, never confrontation. And I just ghosted her, and she messaged me a couple times, and I didn't say anything to her. When I look back, I'm thinking, maybe that's what she wanted. It's like you talking about the the cancer deal. That's her way of ending it. She thinks that, okay, the guy will just end it. Oh, I got cancer. Okay, he'll end it, and then I'll move on to the next and start my new life. The fact of the matter is, you're not the first, and you damn sure ain't gonna be the last. You know, the guy who's doing it right now, he's blowing the smoke right up his tail.
The guy she's with now is a complete moron to believe the nonsense that's coming out of her mouth.
You believed it too. Well, he hasn't been played yet. See, he thinks he's the one. So
he thinks that I was hired by Mark to tell some story that Rachel.
Well, yeah, he's got a rude awakening coming.
Right. So you and I talked over the summer. I didn't realize that you were able to just walk away, but you literally get out of this thing unscathed. You know, you probably had a little heartbreak because you fell for her.
Yeah, it didn't last long because, you know, at that point in my life, like, let's be honest, when I was young, I was a player, you know.
Yeah.
And I broke a lot of girls' hearts, not on purpose. I just did, you know, when you want to be single, you just want to be single and just have fun, and that's what I did. And so once I realized, I come to the realization, you know, there's a lot of red flags. The bank being robbed, you know, I looked up her and Mark's divorce. I couldn't find a divorce record anywhere in the state of California, and
right.
So there's definitely red flags that was already there. And then once I found out the picture, and she said, "Yeah, this thing's in New Jersey," and then I pulled it up myself online, and I was like, "Son of a bitch, she got me." I was like, you know what? I'm dodging a huge bullet here. I'm getting the hell out of here.
We, the Brain Candy Podcast, that is, are hoping to reach ladies like you.
If you like interesting fun facts, laughter, learning, quirkiness, and hilarity,
join us every Monday and Thursday for new episodes hosted by me, Susie Meister, PhD in Religious Studies.
And me, Sarah Rice, AMFT.
We're looking to make actual, real personal connections and a community.
Come on, ladies, give us a click and come join us.
When I told you my story, you and I connected originally over the summer, I think, when I was still writing the podcast. And I remember you kind of laughing about it, saying you dodged a bullet. And I thought to myself, son of a bitch, you are lucky, because I didn't dodge that bullet. And I remember you laughing at me thinking, son of a bitch.
Yeah,
but,
it was still about a 6 month. It's still about a 6 month bullet. So it's not like, oh, you know.
Yeah, listen, I moved my life to California. I was
going to. She said, no, I'll come here, you know, because then she knew that, you know, it would be on at that point. Reality's going to hit.
I heard a conversation that she had with Mark. Mark taped a conversation. I remember listening to her saying, you know, Mike, you know, using your last name, Mark had used it. And she said, I don't know anyone by that name. He may have used a different name. And listening to her, like, it made me sick, knowing as Mark's kind of going through these guys and their names and me and you, I just think, what kind of person does this? I don't know Mike blank. I don't know that name. The guy that you sent the ultrasound of twins to, he's the guy that you loved bomb, that you were going to move back to Houston with. Yeah. By the way, when I heard the story, because Mark had told me the story about the twins, I heard another story about a kid. I don't know if you're up on this, but there's a kid she went to high school with named Brad. It was her first high school boyfriend. You hear the story about Brad?
No.
You're familiar with this guy?
No.
This guy, Brad, when Rachel got out of high school, she gave him a picture of an ultrasound of twins. And that's the story I had heard. By the way, that was summer of 97. She did this to you in 2015. So the story about Brad is that she took her sister Sherry's ultrasound out of the baby book because Sherry had a daughter. That originally the daughter was twins. You know how sometimes the a woman's body can absorb one of the twins.
Right.
That happened to her. So Rachel took that ultrasound of twins out of her sister's baby book, ripped the top off of it, and handed it to Brad. So she's done the twin scam at least twice. And I guarantee you, as I continue to dig, I'm going to find more of these pregnancy scams.
Well, there's the, you know, a high school friend that, you know, she'd asked me, well, how's Rachel doing? And I had spoken about it. And I said, look, I said, you know, she said she was pregnant, and then I found out she wasn't. I said, I just ghosted her. And then she's like, Mike, I wish she would have told me a long time ago, because she said that was her MO back in the day. That's what she did.
In high school and at church camp, right?
Yeah. She said every boy that she was seeing back in the day, she would say, "Oh, I'm pregnant." So it's like, to them, it was like, "Oh, who's Rachel going to be pregnant with, next week or whatnot." So that's just crazy. That's what she did, which is weird, but let's say I would have known that. That's kids back in the day, you're not a full grown adult now,
It's listen, I'm glad you dodged the bullet. I know I'm going to have more questions for you, and I appreciate you having the stones to not worry about having your face on this. I appreciate you doing this. There's a bunch of us that were victims of hers.
Well, it is what it is. Before I had gotten with her, I was married. I was on my second marriage, and I had gotten a divorce, and I'd probably been divorced for maybe a couple years, maybe. I went to Vegas, and my wife didn't come with me, and when I come home, I come home a little early, and found that she had been out all night, partying and stuff, and so I was like, okay. So then I looked into that a little closer. I'm not the one to go looking and digging. I feel like I'm with a girl that I trust. And anyway, found out that I was gone for 5 days, and she had been with 4 different dudes, and I thought, wow. I was heartbroken when I found the first one in their phone, but once I got to the third one, I was just like, oh, okay.
Rachel was the same way with Mark and I.
I looked out for that. I already had this thing of, if things work, they work, and if they don't, everything happens for a reason. I moved on. It is what it is, like I said. The thing is, I have no ill will toward her or anything like that, but at the same time, her kids are not in a healthy position at all. And I feel sorry for Mark. Them kids have got to be already mentally ruined because of seeing the way their mother manipulates and does, she uses good for evil.
I heard from her youngest daughter. She came out to kind of attack one of my posts on TikTok, and I wrote to her and said, listen, I appreciate your desire to defend your mom. You're not going to do it on my account, number one. And number two, if you really want to have a conversation about what's right and what's wrong, because she said, well, these are all lies. I said, ask your mother why she lied to me about being divorced from your father, and ask her why she lied about having cancer. Mm-hmm. That was it. And then I stopped it and I blocked it. And
truth be known, it wasn't her writing that. It was Rachel to begin with.
Of course it was. She's got problems, and the rest of the daughters have problems. And the oldest daughter had to change her name because Rachel used it when she was working as a prostitute and a stripper. They've all got problems. There's no question. And I wish the state would step in and help. The state trust me, the state, the police, everybody has enough information from me, and they're following this. They're following along. They know who I am. Trust me, they know who I am. I'm glad you were able to get out. I wish, I envy that. I wish I was smart enough to have done that myself.
Well, you do it at the point when you find out, and if you're not searching for it, she's the type of person that's going to get over on you. You have enough gut feelings, and I had that because of the past that I've had,
Sure.
I've been through, some women that weren't that, great, and it's hard to be an honest guy out here.
Listen, I wish you success. I know that you're a father now yourself, and you've got a good life going in Houston. So I'm glad you made it through this unscathed, and I appreciate you sharing your story with me and everybody.
Yeah, no problem.
A short but really telling interview with Mike Cherry, which puts things into perspective, or maybe it just keeps things in perspective for us. I'm not sure. His brutal honesty about his relationship with Rachel and his own experience with his wife that cheated on him show us a man that has been through a few things in life, and also that he's another brave person that decided to step forward and share his story. There are many that won't, that haven't. There's some video of this conversation with Mike on our social media channels if you'd like to see some of that for yourself. And again, I want to thank Mike for his time and for his honesty, for sharing his experience with Rachel, with all of us. And coming up on the next episode of The Messenger, the Rachel Cancer Scam, a few more of Rachel's handwritten notes describing her coding incident and the issues with her heart as we approach the season finale of this season of The Messenger, the Rachel Cancer Scam.